Hi there, welcome to Bitcoin Cash Wyckoff technical analysis session. So last session we talked about a potential breakout for Bitcoin Cash by the time we get to early October. And this week, just a few days back, it already took the move and basically jumped the gun. That's why I always say we have a time point, but when we get closer and closer to that point, the breakout can happen on any day, and indeed it happened this time on Monday. And for the past 6 days, well, until yesterday, it got a little bit of bounce up because the price has reached the yellow key level of around $330. So in the topic or title, I mentioned the unfortunate event has happened, and that's something that I have been sharing with the community and warning that if that happens, that's not a good sign for the long-term um, prospect of Bitcoin Cash. So let's see what it is. Here, we're going back to the weekly chart of Bitcoin Cash. There are a lot of question marks over here put down because this horizontal trading actions are very weird. So on one hand, if this is really the blue scenario where we had the buying climax back in late July and then subsequently a second test in mid-August and an upthrust beginning of this month. Assuming those are all correct, then this is the blue scenario, and we've just had the second sign of weakness of the divine climax. Scenario 2 is the yellow tags. So this entire period since the end of July is only a preliminary supply period, meaning we haven't seen like even the buying climax yet, but that's a less likely scenario. So the unfortunate event that I mentioned in the title is what I've been talking about, even for some other altcoins, that lower and lower peaks have been observed along the timeline. So back then, April 2024, the highest price point was around 715, roughly that level. But when we fast forward to December last year, the tip was only at 640. This time, we were a little bit better than December, and we reached a point around 650. But it's still not good enough because if I just turn its box to cover the wicks, I would say it's a bit comforting that the price got higher, the peak price got higher than the last buying climax back in December 2024. But it's still lower than, or much lower than what we had back in April 2024. So from that point down to the peak we had this time, it was, or it is, like around 10% lower. If this trend, this pink box trend continues, and by the time we have the next bull run or the next distribution cycle in terms of Wyckoff, and the price falls below, that peak price falls below this green key level of 615, that's once again confirming a declining peak trend. So what does that mean? That means that the value, whether you're speculating or holding for long, for Bitcoin Cash, it's basically declining to a point where you might as well find other altcoins to speculate. That's the meaning of it. Because yes, while it has some waves, but then imagine about this. You got in at a point at the bottom of the long-term playground zone, or like somewhere around this automatic rally level of, say, make it easy, $110. If it shot up to this level at 710, that's a $600 rise. But if the peaks keep getting lower, like this one to 610, and eventually lower and lower to, I don't know, 550, you see the difference, right? Even if it dip to 270, the range is getting narrower and narrower. So from a return on your investment perspective, if you're trading actively, the percentage gain is just getting smaller and smaller. So that's why I said this declining trend is not a good sign. So with that as a backdrop, obviously people speculating this will become less and less, and also it will hit the confidence of the people that are less speculative as well. If they see a declining peaks, they might as well take the profit and then move their asset towards some other coins. So that's a very, very serious consequence for this, and I don't think people that like Bitcoin Cash would want to see that happening. Like, if I switch off all the drawings, Bitcoin Cash isn't too bad compared to some other altcoins, because this doesn't fall as a flat line. A lot of other altcoins, they became a flat line over here, but for Bitcoin Cash, it still maintains certain level of waves. So that's why I said hopefully it doesn't turn to a declining trend run by this pink box. So that's the big picture. Now gets to before getting to the daily, let's quickly check the Bollinger Band Curve squeeze. As of this moment, the purple lines are getting closer and closer to the orange. So when the squeeze happened back in mid-May or starting late April, it gave a squeeze that pushed the price up to where we are now. And the current squeeze, while we hope for the price to at least touch the level back in the first quarter of 2024, unfortunately let's say across the board, it looks like it's going to swing towards the other side, because a lot of times when the swing hits the top edge of the channels, the Bollinger Band and the channel, it's going to hit back to the other side of the channels. So that's the risk that Bitcoin Cash is facing. It seems like I said before, it's heading towards the downside more than the upside, the likelihood. So time to move to the daily chart. Here, Bollinger Band Curve squeeze. The squeeze already happened, and on September 22nd, that's when the squeeze pushed the price to where we are now, fallen outside of this upward trend box, or you can say a bear flag for candlestick pattern analysis. As of now, I'm trying to see whether we can have another time point reference, because we are right on the spot where the price should rebound, and indeed it shows a small sign of rebound. It's difficult to draw this line, but that's the resistance slope, and currently we're trading outside of it, so that's a relieving sign, at least for a short while for the bulls, because if it breaks out to the downside, it means it goes straight to challenge not only this green line but also the orange key level of around $450. But it hasn't finished yet. Today's candle, there's still 19 hours and 45 minutes almost. So it can turn into a wick, and then, oh well, it won't be a wick because it started right over there. So it would be a long red candle poking down. There's still a chance, and this sign of weakness is already confirmed. So previously I said 70% coming to here. Now it has been confirmed. It touches the yellow key level, and if this rebound, it can be a case of last point of supply towards this white line over here. That's the long-term playground zone, the top edge. So this white box, the entire large white box over here, that encapsulates around 80% of the activities of Bitcoin Cash all the way back to 2021. So right now we're talking about this time point. If it happens that way, if it really breaks towards the upside and find last point of supply, it may come back down for another sign of weakness. A quick reference was this time. It went up a bit and then come down again. That's very normal for this kind of activities to happen. So I'm trying to see whether there's possibility of a next time point indication. I would say it's weak, but we can still take reference. So if I draw a line over here and basically brackets the wicks of the candles, what we have, I don't want to move that line, is if the price continues to trade, it can trade sideways for quite a while, because if this is really a downward trend that's forming, the price usually bounces off between the ceiling and the bottom. So eventually by this point, somewhere near early November, if it bounces up to this point and trades sideways, then eventually it has to break out at that point. So I'm just assessing what other time points we have in addition to the one we already covered. Basically, we on the day of a breakout event, if you still have this dashed line in your mind, we basically on that very day that the big guys will need to tell us, are they going to push the price back to challenge the white line or even the green? That's the ceiling of this downward trend box or downward channel, or it's going to break towards the downside, meaning this channel has to be adjusted. So I will have to tilt this further because that means a steeper downtrend is happening. And there's an intermediate support level at around $485 before it comes to test the 450 orange key level. Yeah, it's not well, it's optimistic for the bulls, but pessimistic for the it's optimistic for the bears, but pessimistic for the bulls, based on the current move. Especially last week, this long wick over there, that means very heavy selling at that level pushes the price down, and this week continues. While the volume may have dropped a bit, there's still 1 day and 20 hours left for the volume to catch up. So let's not be complacent and caught off guard. Remember to set your stop loss. I would say stormy time is on the way based on all the sessions I covered and the stage that they're at in the Wyckoff cycle. So be prepared and be really cautious what's going to come in this fourth quarter of 2025. Stay safe, trade safe. See you in the next session. Cheers.